So a few videos ago, we explored the main ideas and the main thoughts that spawned from Mr. Aaron T. Beck, right, who has been referred to as the founder of CBT. But here I want to acknowledge a few of the core ideas that spawned from Mr. Albert Ellis. Now, in that last clip, we looked at the 14 self-defeating beliefs that sometimes people function out of. But Albert Ellis really focused on the connection between beliefs and behaviours, all right, the correlation between the two. He suggested that a small number of core beliefs, i.e. the 14 that I've just mentioned, underlie most unhelpful emotions and behaviours. So it's our beliefs that give birth to our emotions and our behaviours. Now, granted, thoughts play a part in this, but thoughts are always the instant. They're coming into our head. And remember, we're only ever going to act against or act upon a thought if we fundamentally agree with it. We're only going to agree with a thought if we know, or if we've already come to assume or believe that what this thought is true. All right? So it's beliefs that give power to thoughts when we embrace them. It's these embraced thoughts that then trigger emotions and behaviours. We'll unpack this all moving forward. Very, very simple idea, but it's life-changing, all right? There's no magical, mystical processes required for facilitating change in people's lives, just understanding of how the human psyche works. So, Albert Ellis also suggested that core beliefs are just simply underlying rules that guide how we react to the events and the circumstances in our lives. The rules are the things, when we feel or see or think that something's okay or not okay, we're just given reference to the rules that we have. The rules that we have are just a reflection of that which we believe is right, wrong, good or bad. Now, what I'm going to suggest is that in life, none of us ever wake up any day with the intention of hurting people or offending people or doing more harm than good or damaging or getting it wrong. But yet we're all capable of totally screwing up sometimes, aren't we? All right, so if we want to make change on a habits, on a behaviours level, we've got to make change on a thoughts level, on a beliefs level. So this we've acknowledged, this we understand. And the ways in which we think and feel can hugely influence, but don't always determine, and this is important we understand this. All right, the ways in which we think and feel, they can hugely influence, but they don't determine the way that we act and behave, all right? Our actions and our behaviours are separate from our thoughts and our feelings, even though many people like to compartmentalise everything as all rolled up into one. Some behavioural patterns can be problematic for people in the following ways. Now remember, CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. So the main focus is looking at the relationship between our cognitions and our behaviours. And we know that the beliefs are going to play a massive role somewhere in between the two. So here, all we want to get good at is identifying destructive or self-defeating habits in a person's life. Because we've looked at the self-defeating beliefs, but guess what? You're never going to be able to identify a person's beliefs apart from through their behaviours. You'll never know a person apart from through what a person does. You want to know a person, look at what they do. Look at what they don't do. If you want to understand what a person believes, look at how they invest their time. Look at their attitude. Look at how they respond, interact with other people. All right? So we use a person's behaviours, their habits, their actions as a means by which to discern and gauge where a person is at. You with me? All right? So first things first, self-destructive habits. They kind of break down into three different categories. We're just going to really simply define these categories here, and then we'll move on and unpack in a bit more depth later on. Self-destructive habits, such as excessive drinking or various other addictions. It might be gambling or sex. Some people get addicted to success, accomplishing more, achieving more, must do. I can remember reading an interview, I think it was in Vogue magazine by Madonna quite a number of years ago, and her interviewer was asking her about why she'd just never quit. Why had she always gone for the next album, now that she's in her 60s, What is it that would drive a person to keep on going like this? So many failed marriages, so many relationships had fallen apart, but the career remained quite consistent. What is it that really spawned this? And she said that it was less to do with, it wasn't nothing to do with any making money. It wasn't about the next album within itself. It was more about the excitement that comes from not knowing whether another offering will be received well or not. All right. And what Madonna suggested was that what drove her in life was the excitement of getting another number one, of having another best-selling album, about pushing herself to see exactly what she was capable of achieving, which is interesting because some people won't step outside the comfort zone or try anything for fear of failure. So where some people allow a fear of failure to hold them back and prevent them from even getting started, some people use this fear of failure as a platform upon which to project themselves out of. All right? It's interesting, isn't it? Interesting. Self-destructive habits such as excessive drinking or using drugs to quell anxiety can cause direct physical harm. But self-destructive habits can also be addictions. Some people can be addicted to success or addicted to excitement or thrill seekers. All right? But when we're addicted to something, when we need something from something or someone, it's to fill a void. We've got to be aware of this. All right? If we do not feel suffice within ourselves, then that means that we're going to feel insufficient and therefore dependent or in need of something or from someone to fulfill us. All right? Not a particularly healthy outlook on life. Isolating and mood-depressing behaviours, such as staying in bed all day or not seeing your friends, it might increase your sense of isolation and maintain your low mood. Right. How many people do you know or have you come across over the years who will complain or talk about or discuss their low mood? I've known many people, in fact I've worked with them over the years, people who say, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm off a low mood. And when I ask them the question, okay, and what exactly are you doing about this? Oh, nothing. I'm just waiting for someone to help me. I'm waiting for someone to come into my life, take responsibility for me, and become the change that I want to see happen. To do all the changing for me. I certainly don't want to do any changing. People will stay in bed all day. They feel sad, so they go to bed and they eat. One lady that I worked with, who was, quite severely overweight. When I say severely, immensely overweight, to the point it was putting all sorts of strains and pressures on her heart, and she was depressed. She would eat because she was sad. And because of the extent of the amount of food that she was eating, the size of her physical body became very, very big. And as a result of this, she found herself and she felt sluggish and disgusting to other people, and this just enhanced her feelings of sadness. She became stuck in this vicious cycle. She ate because she felt sad, and then she felt even more sad because of how much she ate. So she would self-remedy by eating more, and the destructive cycle continues. Right? Self-destructive habits. Isolating and mood-depressing behaviours sometimes walk hand in hand with self-destructive habits. Eating, drinking. I've known a couple of guys over the years. In fact, back when I was in my 20s, I used to struggle with overindulgence of drinking and some drugs as well. Why? Because I desperately wanted to experience a positive emotion. Right? I was used to feeling sad and isolated and low and bored, and it wasn't like back then I had too great a sense of self-belief. I wasn't too confident within myself, so I would drink a lot and take drugs to overcompensate for that which I felt I was lacking. All right? What many people do, and it's sad in life, many people judge others for the things that they say and do. I've mentioned this. But as CBT practitioners, our role is to understand the reasons why. It's people's intentions. We've got to understand, we've got to at least appreciate or expect there to be some sort of positive intention that underpins a person's behaviours or actions, regardless of how destructive and unhelpful these habits or behavioural patterns are. Right? It's about understanding people. It's not about changing habits. It's not about changing behaviours. It's about making modifications in a person's beliefs about how they can actually go about getting more of that which they actually want and less of that they don't want. So obviously it goes without saying, if a person is coming to you saying, I'm depressed, and then they're going to go home and stay in bed between sessions for the next 7 days, well, they're not being particularly proactive in staying out of bed or getting out in the world and contributing or giving back in some way. Hence the reason in CBT, it can be good to set homework challenges for some clients, all right? Because just having this level of accountability can be more than enough to really provoke a person to take that risk, to step outside the comfort zone, to actually do some things that they previously would have been less inclined to have done on their own. Avoidance-based responses, such as avoiding situations that you might perceive as being threatening, perhaps attending a social outing, using a lift, speaking in public, all of these things. Fear, right? What is fear? It's false evidence appearing real. I can't remember who said that at some point in the past. One of the main reasons why most people don't do the things that they claim to want to do in life is because of fear, apprehension, anxiety. People don't not do things because they're angry. People don't not do things because they're happy or excited or fulfilled. It's fear all the time, right? What we want to do is we want to develop a real hatred for fear. It's one of the most unhelpful, in fact, it's probably the most useless emotion that exists. Fear doesn't serve neither man nor beast. So people that say, I'm anxious, I'm fearful, nice one. And how's that serving you? Because it doesn't serve anyone whatsoever. It's just a feeling, all right? It holds people back from fulfilling the things that they want to fulfill, ultimately making progress in life and doing the things that they want to do and being the kind of people that they really want to be. It doesn't serve anyone. If you think about it, if we are not committing to being the kind of people that we want to be in life, then we're not just holding ourselves back and doing ourselves a disservice, but we're actually limiting and preventing other people that we know, or the world at large, from experiencing the value that we actually have to offer, that have come from the insights that we've gained from the past life experiences that we've had, all right? Which, incidentally, is going to be completely unique for all of us. Everyone has a story to share, but most people seriously undervalue the story. They say, oh, my life's just a normal life. No, just normal for you. My life is just normal for me, but it's not normal for anyone else. Everyone else has their own version of normal, all right? So sometimes helping our clients to actually appreciate and really own their story and share the story with other people can be a real step in the right direction. Avoidance-based responses are always going to be based upon fear. When we can modify this outlook on life, and rather than being fearful of being rejected by one or two people, how about expecting that your message or your offering or your contribution is going to make a life-transforming impact in one person? Would that be worth it? Well, of course it would, which can be more than enough to trigger a person to move and grow. So, understanding destructive behaviour. Listen, I could talk about this for hours on end, but destructive behaviours are very, very easy to identify, all right? If you just sit and observe a person for long enough, you're going to pick up on their bad habits, their attitudes, little behaviours, things like that, that just gives us context for questioning, all right? Most of the questioning that we do is always going to be centred around behaviours and habits or attitudes, all right, to get to the root of the belief that underpins them. So this is the purpose that behaviours serve us as cognitive behavioural therapy, kind of a starting point for us to start unpacking and exploring to get to the root of the belief that underpins them. You with me? Makes sense? So there is just a mini workbook available for you in the additional resources section. So spend 5 minutes reviewing that, and I'll look forward to seeing you again in the next clip.